this was the point we stopped at our last class, that the glycolysis is happening in all organisms, and the site of glycolysis being the cytoplasm. The glucose is converted to pyruvate, and the summary of glycolysis was this. In today's class, we will see the reactions which answer this question: what is the fate of glycolysis? I hope you know the meaning of the word phase. I mean the fate. What is it? What is the future uh, perspectives for pyruvate? What happens to pyruvate later? Is the pyruvate end of glucose metabolism? No, definitely not. But what happens to pyruvate now depends on the type of respiration the cell is exhibiting. If the cells are exhibiting anaerobic respiration, the fate is fermentation. If the cells are undergoing aerobic respiration, the fate is Krebs cycle. So we will first see the anaerobic fate. So before that, I told you what are the products of glycolysis. Strictly speaking, the products are like this. The glucose, one molecule, has got converted into two molecules of pyruvate. And in this process, two ATP molecules have been gained by the cell. Of course, there are two substrate level phosphorylation steps. Into two, 4 ATPs are gained, accounting for 2 ATPs which have been used for the preparatory phase. Subtract them, you get 2 ATP gains. And one more compound which is released during glycolysis is this NADH, because there is one oxidation step in the glycolysis where NAD plus has been converted to NADH because of this oxidation step. Because NAD plus is an oxidizing agent, it gets reduced to NADH. The NADH has to be converted back to NAD plus for the glycolysis to continue. In the aerobic respiration, there is no problem because there is an ETC, the whole mitochondrial ETC system is there, which takes care of this reaction. What is the reaction? How to oxidize NADH back to NAD plus. This is taken care of by the ETC with the involvement of the molecular oxygen. Of course, and this process is very energetically beneficial. Why? Because 3 ATPs are released for every NADH molecule is oxidized to NAD plus by the ETC. It's fine. But in the anaerobic respiration, when this machinery is not there, when this mechanism of oxidation of NADH by molecular oxygen to NAD plus is not there, how is NADH oxidized back to NAD plus? This is the question we stopped at our previous class. And it's a very important question because unless NADH is not oxidized back to NAD plus, the glycolysis will not continue. And the cells have evolved, the organisms have evolved with two pathways for this specific purpose. What is the specific purpose? Conversion of NADH or oxidation of NADH to NAD+. And these two pathways constitute something we call fermentation pathways. Okay, so let us study the first pathway, or not the first pathway, one pathway which happens in anaerobic bacteria like lactobacillus. I hope you have heard of this species, lactobacillus. Those are the ones which are present in the milk. Naturally, they are present in the milk. And they are also responsible for souring of milk. Is it not? If the milk is not boiled, or it is not, if the milk is not preserved under proper conditions, in no time you see the milk is spoiled. And what is responsible for the spoiling of milk or the souring of milk? The lactobacillus bacteria, because the milk contains a lot of lactose, the sugar, which is metabolized by these bacteria. Of course, say in our whole discussion, we have started our glycolysis with glucose, but other monosaccharides can also be converted to glucose and or maybe or fructose, and then metabolism can start. Lactose is a disaccharide made up of glucose plus galactose. So when they are broken, you get one molecule of glucose and galactose. So what happens to that glucose which is got from lactose? That undergoes glycolysis. and gives you lactate. Gives you pyruvate first. And since this is anaerobic respiration, the bacteria don't have mitochondria. The NADH reoxidation to NAD plus is a challenge. How the cells are facing this challenge? That is what we are discussing. Yes, lactobacillus bacteria. They have an enzyme called lactate dehydrogenase. So what do? You see, the pyruvate, which is the end product of glycolysis, behaves as a substrate for this fermentation pathway. The pyruvate's carbonyl group is reduced to a secondary alcoholic group. And the product after this reduction is lactic acid. Now, as I told you, if this is a reduction step, like any oxidation step requires an oxidizing agent, reduction also requires a reducing agent. And which is the reducing agent in the cells? The NADH. NAD plus is the oxidizing agent. NADH is the reducing agent. And the NADH was produced in the glycolysis path itself. That NADH is getting used up, is acting as the reducing agent to reduce the carbonyl group into the secondary alcoholic group. So the NADH becomes NAD plus. We know this well-established fact. Reducing agents get oxidized during a redox reaction, whereas oxidizing agents get reduced during a redox reaction. So the NADH getting oxidized to NAD plus, pyruvate getting reduced to lactate. So in this way, the cell is regenerating NAD plus. You see, how is NADH getting converted to NAD plus? No requirement of complex machinery of ETC and all, like in the aerobic respiration. Simply the pyruvate itself acts as a substrate, which uses NADH, reacts with NADH, gets converted to lactate. NADH gets converted to NAD. Fine. So this is the end of glycolysis, particularly in those species. So NAD plus is regenerated, it goes and continues the glycolysis step. But although NAD plus is regenerated, it doesn't give you the advantage of production of 3 ATPs like in aerobic respiration. Is it not? So this is a simple straightforward reaction without net gain of ATP at all. Neither ATP is used nor ATP is given out. But the purpose is served. The purpose is fulfilled. What is the purpose? The NAD plus has to be regenerated. That is taken care of, fulfilled by the fermentation pathway. So this is called lactic acid pathway or lactate fermentation pathway. And please also note the stereochemical depictor here, L-lactate. The enzyme lactate dehydrogenase is stereospecific. It produces only one enantiomer of lactate, that is L-lactate. D-lactate is not produced due to this reaction. You see, the pyruvate is not chiral, whereas lactate is chiral, because you have a chiral center here, the carbon which is attached to 4 different groups. So if there is one chiral center, 2 enantiomers are possible. Only one enantiomer is produced. That is the L-lactate. D-lactate is not produced. So that's why we call this lactate dehydrogenase enzyme is a stereospecific action, has stereospecific action. And even the thermodynamics of this is favorable. Delta G is minus 25.1 kilojoules per mole. This is quite favorable because whenever you have minus sign, the reaction happens in the forward direction most of the times. I mean, the forward direction is favored. Therefore, pyruvate to lactate the conversion is feasible, easy. There is one more fermentation pathway, and this happens in yeasts. Happens in yeasts. Now, see, there are only 2 fermentation. One is the lactate fermentation pathway. The other is ethanol fermentation pathway. Whereas the lactate fermentation pathway is 1 step. The ethanol fermentation pathway is 2 steps. So what happens in the ethanol fermentation pathway? As I told you, this happens in organisms like yeasts. Again, the pyruvate itself acts as a substrate, but before undergoing reduction, it undergoes a decarboxylation step first. So pyruvate is decarboxylated to acetaldehyde. See what happens? If you remove this carbon dioxide, the remaining groups are simply the CH3 and COH. That is what happening here. So pyruvate decarboxylase, decarboxylates pyruvate to give you acetaldehyde. And acetaldehyde now undergoes reduction. Which is the reducing agent? Of course, NADH. So NADH reduces the aldehyde group into primary alcoholic group. Ketones are reduced to secondary alcohol. Whereas the primary alcohols are produced from reduction of aldehyde groups. So NADH is reduced, used for the reduction and converted to NAD+. Whereas acetaldehyde is reduced and becomes ethanol. Fine. But of course, again, the purpose is regeneration of NAD+, which has happened here. So therefore, there's one more pathway which is aimed at regenerating NAD+. In the process, pyruvate is converted to acetaldehyde and acetaldehyde is again converted to ethanol. And you know, this is of too much utility for us. Yeah, it's a if this biotechnology field is so much booming now, right? But the biotechnology, maybe the first instance of application of biotechnology was when humans invented this fermentation. So fermentation we can call especially ethanol fermentation as the first biotechnology applications humans have done, because you know it's also called brewing, beverage industry. Humans have been using this reaction found in yeasts and other microorganisms, anaerobic microorganisms, for millennia, for more than 10,000 years old, producing ethanols. And ethanol is a very important product which has a lot of applications in for mankind. You know, not just for consuming alcohol. Ethanol, it is also used as solvent. It is used as disinfectant. During this COVID pandemic time, we are always advised to disinfect our hands with hand sanitizers, particularly when we cannot find soap and water. What is the chief ingredient in the disinfectant? Ethanol. So ethanol is a disinfectant, and it's a solvent. It's a very important organic solvent in organic chemistry synthesis. So ethanol, very useful product for us, ethanol. But this useful product for us is a waste product for that microorganism. Ethanol is simply secreted out by the cells because that is no longer useful for the cells. Even lactic acid is no longer useful for the cells, so simply secreted out. So all these end product of glycolysis, ethanol and lactic acid, are so useful to us. So waste for a microorganism is a wealth for us. Therefore, no, I was always talking about very large scale applications. Even when you prepare this idli dosa batter in our houses, we use this technology to a limited extent, right? So how do the flour idli dosa get converted to a batter? Because the yeasts do the job. They liberate carbon dioxide. Fermentation, carbon dioxide is released, is also very useful, because as the carbon dioxide is released, it makes the food particles, food items very soft. As well as ethanol. Ethanol makes it, gives that characteristic taste of that soured items. And it also happens naturally. Yeah. Like when the food is very ripe, from fruit is very ripe, what happens? The ripe fruit falls down and gets fermented. Slowly they get fermented. So in the process, ethanol is released. But you know, there are bacteria which start from this ethanol also. Ethanol using bacteria are also there, but they are not anaerobes, they are aerobes. As of now, the anaerobes produce ethanol as their waste product, which is actually useful to us. Fine. So this is about anaerobic respiration, fate of pyruvate. So in anaerobic respiration, pyruvate is either converted to lactate or ethanol. So now, since we have come to the end of glycolysis, at least for anaerobic respiration case, let us summarize the glycolysis a bit, energetic wise. So what's the net reaction of the glycolysis? It's converted to 2 molecules of pyruvate. 1 molecule of glucose is getting converted to 2 molecules of pyruvate. And there are 2 steps of substrate level phosphorylation, which is 4 ATPs, 2 into 2. Because after 2 glyceraldehyde molecules are produced, every all sequence of reactions have to be multiplied by 2. So 2 into 2, 4 ATPs are produced. But the net ATP gain is only 2 because 2 ATPs are used in the preparatory phase for phosphorylation of glucose as well as phosphorylation of fructose phosphate. Now, apart from these ATPs, NADHs are also produced. How many? 2. And these 2 NADHs are consumed in fermentation to regenerate NAD+. Whereas in aerobes, the NADH are oxidized by ETC, thereby giving you 2 into 3, 6 ATPs more. So what's the net gain of ATPs in the aerobes due to glycolysis? 4 SLPs plus 6 ETCs, ATPs from ETC minus 2. Anyways, 2 would be used in the preparatory phase, whether anaerobic or aerobic. That's the identical common step. 8 ATPs. So going by this, we can always tell energetic wise, since aerobic respiration is releasing 8 ATPs, that is far better than anaerobic respiration, is it not? So all those anaerobic organisms are surviving on only 2 ATPs they get from glucose. So what's happening there? The energy output is very low. Therefore, what is the evolutionary significance of this difference in chemistry? There is too much significance. There is a lot of significance. Why? If you look at the surviving organisms on Earth now, majority of them are all aerobes. Only a small fraction are still anaerobes. But when the Earth started, when the life started on Earth, they were all anaerobes. There was no oxygen in the atmosphere of the Earth when the life started. In fact, all the oxygen in the atmosphere of the Earth now, about 20%, has come after photosynthesis was started on Earth. So before photosynthesis was there was no oxygen in the atmosphere of the Earth. So the oxygen in the atmosphere is all biologically derived oxygen, which is present now. So anyways, even before photosynthesis, life existed. Chemosynthetic life, all those forms of life existed. They were all anaerobes. So that was the only respiration way in those primitive organisms. But once when the oxygen started coming into the atmosphere, the organisms were there which started using this oxygen and oxidizing the pyruvate further, not simply reducing the pyruvate to lactic acid and ethanol. They wanted to oxidize the pyruvate further. So then started this Krebs cycle and all. So what happened? Even without Krebs cycle, there is 6 ATPs more gain compared to anaerobic respiration. Now, when you include ATP gain from Krebs cycle also, it's too much. More than 30-35 ATPs are produced more. Therefore, high energy output in aerobes. And once there is production of more energy per molecule of glucose, for the same molecule of glucose, when there are produced more ATPs, that gave them advantages in a lot of ways. Metabolically, they were having edge. They were having more advantage position. This caused aerobes population, species, biodiversity to increase like that, and to such an extent that today almost all organisms are aerobes, only for a small fractions which are anaerobes. Fine. So now we will look into the fate of pyruvate in aerobic respiration. So in anaerobic, pyruvate gets reduced to lactic acid or ethanol. In aerobic respiration, what happens? In aerobic respiration, the next step of oxidation happens, that is oxidative decarboxylation, where pyruvate is oxidized to acetate. This is a reaction for that. This is pyruvate that is oxidized to acetate along with a decarboxylation step, because acetate means acetic acid. How many carbons acetic acid contains? CH3COOH, 2. How many carbons pyruvate contains? 3. So 3 to 2, one carbon has to be eliminated in the form of carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide molecule is removed, and the aldehyde group which comes after removal of carbon dioxide is oxidized to acid group, as well as, of course, see, when I tell oxidized, you need an oxidizing agent. And which is that oxidizing agent in cell? NAD+. So NAD+ comes into picture and gets converted to NADH. And of course, this NADH goes to ETC, 3 ATPs are released, all those story follows. That's the other part. So now, as of now, lot of things are happening on pyruvate here. So this pyruvate dehydrogenase complex is a very complicated machinery. There are 3 reactions happening on pyruvate at the same time. So which are those 3 reactions happening? One is decarboxylation, followed by oxidation to acetic acid, followed by linking of coenzyme acetyl CoA. Coenzyme A. Sorry, not acetyl CoA. Linking of an coenzyme called coenzyme A to the acetic acid which is produced to give acetyl CoA. So a pyruvate, because of all these 3 steps, is converted to acetyl CoA and ready for Krebs cycle. Therefore, this pyruvate, it is like a very important junction point in carbohydrate metabolism. Why it is a junction point, we'll understand later. But anyways, there is one more aspect of this reaction. Which reaction? Decarboxylation of oxidative decarboxylation. So please get the terms correct, right? This is the oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvate. Very significant one. Because of that, acetyl CoA is produced. Now the acetyl CoA enters mitochondria. But you know, the glycolysis is happening in cytoplasm. Whereas this step, oxidative decarboxylation step, happens in mitochondria. So as the pyruvate enters mitochondria, you see here, as the pyruvate enters mitochondria through a help of a protein, transport protein, of course, lot of information, advanced level information is there on this step, which from your syllabus point of view, only this much is enough. So pyruvate enters mitochondria. As it enters, it is decarboxylated, it is oxidized, it is linked with coenzyme A and converted to acetyl CoA. Now acetyl CoA is further oxidized through Krebs cycle in the mitochondria. So this reaction is a link reaction. What does it link? It links glycolysis to Krebs cycle. Oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvate is such a crucial reaction in the cells. It links glycolysis to Krebs cycle. Therefore, this is called a link reaction. And now once the acetyl CoA is produced, it enters Krebs cycle. All the reactions of Krebs cycle we are going to see in the next class. But you see, there is one more aspect of this. When we write the oxidation of glucose, what is the net reaction? C6H12O6 plus 6O2, giving rise to 6CO2 plus 6H2O. So finally, carbon dioxide has to be removed from glucose. This is the first instance of that. This is the first instance. First time carbon dioxide is removed from pyruvate, and pyruvate has come from glucose. So this is the first instance of removal of carbon dioxide from glucose indirectly. So how many carbon dioxide molecules are coming out from glucose? 2, because one glucose gives rise to 2 pyruvate. Each pyruvate gives 1 carbon dioxide, so 2 pyruvate gives 2 carbon dioxide. So glucose has now lost 2 carbon dioxide already in the link reaction itself. So in the Krebs cycle, we will see that acetyl CoA loses 2 more carbon dioxides. So totally 3 carbon dioxide loss per pyruvate. So into 2, 6 carbon dioxide loss for glucose. So that is what happens in Krebs cycle. Okay. So why did I tell that pyruvate is such an important intermediate in the carbohydrate metabolism? Because of its ability to undergo so many transformations. You see, pyruvate in the oxidative decarboxylation for the Krebs cycle, it is converted to acetyl CoA. For anaerobic, in the anaerobic mode, it is converted to ethanol. See here, decarboxylation, acetyl CoA. Alcoholic fermentation, ethanol or lactic acid. Lactic acid, which I have written here. It also can get added with ammonia to give you amino acids, or it can undergo just decarboxylation without oxidation to give you oxaloacetate. And this oxaloacetate is a compound used in gluconeogenesis, which is not there in your syllabus, but out of just curiosity, I'm just giving you this point. Gluconeogenesis is the reverse of glucose oxidation, building of sugars using small molecules like oxaloacetate and acetyl CoA. So gluconeogenesis. Pyruvate is a very, it's like almost a junction point where many deviations can happen from this point. But what is the source of pyruvate? Glycolysis. So glycolysis gives pyruvate and gets used up in so many reactions. So this is what I just wanted to tell regarding fate of pyruvate in both types, aerobic and anaerobic. Next class, we'll take up Krebs cycle.